Look at the grind that Upton Stout is putting on this offseason, and look at the size of his arms. I think that he's put on some strength, and remember that this was already the NFL's strongest rookie cornerback to begin with. 21 bench press reps in the 2025 NFL Combine. The 49ers absolutely have to love the work that Upton Stout is putting in this offseason with a 49ers helmet on, no less. Everything that I see Upton Stout do comes with a 49ers helmet on. San Francisco has to be very, very excited about what he can bring this defense and how he might mix with Nate Hobbs, the new signing who has a little bit of guaranteed money for the 49ers, who, remember, signed a $48 million contract with the Packers just last year. It didn't work out, but I think in large part it didn't work out because Green Bay was trying to play Hobbs outside. I believe that he is strongest at slot cornerback and maybe even at a hybrid safety type of role. He's a little bit bigger than Upton Stout, but Upton Stout led the entire NFL last year, all cornerbacks in pressures. So Raheem Morris is going to have some very athletic options to work with coming out of this defensive backfield. Remember that Atlanta blitzed at the second highest rate in the league last year. This was coming off the season in which the Falcons had the lowest sack rate in football. So Raheem Morris, Jeff Ulbrich had to get that fixed last season. They did so by telling their team to blitz a whole heck of a lot, over 34% of the time. And it worked. Atlanta generated a whole heck of a lot more pressure. I think that the 49ers, coming off a season where they were last in the entire NFL in sacks, are also going to be in a mode where they try to manufacture a little bit more pressure, especially if there are some injuries along the defensive line. And they've got guys recovering along that D line. It is an effort from the 49ers, a concerted one, to make that defensive line stronger this offseason. Obviously, the trade for Osa Odigizua, who is a pass rusher at that defensive tackle spot. 49ers really were missing one last year, should directly address that. But I think that Raheem Morris, just in general, is more ready to be aggressive, bringing more than 4 rushers than Robert Saleh was. And when you have somebody who can get after the quarterback like Upton Stout, who's strong yet agile. I mean, this guy's only 5'9". He weighed 181 last year. I think when you look at some of the video of his workouts from this offseason, he has put on a little bit of muscle, but I think he's going to be able to fight through traffic better. I think he's going to be able to kind of work through a fray. And still, when you look at the strength, and obviously that can help you mano a mano in the NFL. But what I think has made Upton Stout so comparatively good at what he does is the size, or the relative lack of it. I think that the fact that he's 5'9", the fact that he's 181 to 185 allows him to sneak under guys, sneak around guys. You combine that with strength, and that creates really an ideal nickelback kind of scenario when it comes to run defense and when it comes to the ability to rush the quarterback.
He a dog. He a dog. Fast trigger. He fearless. He fit in good with us. Yeah, he's at home.
Now, Upton, he had a missed tackle rate of above 10% last year, which is still a tad high. For defensive backs, you keep it around 10%. You don't want it to be much higher than that. If Upton Stout can move the missed tackle rate down 5 to 7% this year, if it's in that range, he can be an absolutely elite box player. He might have been the 49ers' best defensive player leaving the 2025 season because Fred Warner wasn't on the field. I thought that Upton Stout, playing in that game against Seattle where the 49ers got blown out in the playoffs, I thought that he might have been the best player on defense on the field for San Francisco. And I'm not really trying to take much away from Diomede Lenoir, who I thought was good last year. I think he gets unfairly roasted for the JSN stuff. JSN had 2 catches against him all season long. I think that his damage came against other players. Renardo Green was the one that Kyle Shanahan had an issue with in the divisional playoff game. But if Upton Stout played well enough to where, I circled him as a 49ers defensive star leaving the season. And I think he and Diomede Lenoir, between those two, because Demo played inside and out the season before, super versatile guy, right? I think if you consider Stout on the inside doing versatile stuff, blitzing, coverage, something that he can get better at in year 2. With Demo being your ultimate star position player, that is the position that Jalen Ramsey played with the Rams under both Brandon Staley and then Raheem Morris, that he was flexing between outside cornerback and inside cornerback. And then you add Nate Hobbs with his athleticism and his pedigree playing both inside and outside, but I think more of an inside focus with potential safety flex. All of a sudden, that cornerback position heading into this year 2 of Upton Stout under a new defensive coordinator, Raheem Morris, who's probably going to try a bunch of different things, all of a sudden there's real intrigue there for me. Now, safety still has to be addressed by the 49ers, and maybe Nate Hobbs helps address it for San Francisco. Maybe they have some big DB flex operations where Upton Stout helps address it for the 49ers. But I would caution that Hobbs, who has a lot of tackles for loss, and Stout, who led the league out of all those cornerbacks in pressures last year, I think they're both best near the line of scrimmage, in the box, using their strength and athleticism, because Hobbs is also a built guy. I think that they're best wreaking havoc there in the fray. The 49ers might still need some more open field talent, some open field experience. When you heard Richard Sherman talking about the safety position for the 49ers, he mentioned that you want somebody who's played good football before. I always think about Tashawn Gibson back in the 23 season. I think, it was 2023, ahead of the 49ers Super Bowl run. 49ers might have even been 2022, actually. It was one of those 2 years they brought in Tashawn Gibson right ahead of the season, and he was a safety on the wrong end of 30 years old, but he also had a ton of career interceptions, and it was somebody who obviously knew how to play the position, knew how to cover on the back end, knew how to communicate on the back end, and he immediately started for the 49ers, and he played very, very well for San Francisco. Helped lead the team, led the league in interceptions, and one of the big reasons they did so was because they had Tashawn Gibson recognizing how to play center field, a good safety in space, a good safety in pass coverage, and I think that may be where the 49ers needed a little bit of an extra boost. It all will come down to the new defensive coordinator, though, Raheem Morris. And safeties are often, underrated in terms of what they have to bring from a communication standpoint. Everybody thinks that because Fred Warner has the radio in his helmet, he's the quarterback of the defense. And in many ways he is, communication-wise, as far as just the act of hearing the play call come in from Raheem Morris and then start to communicate it to everybody else. But the difference between linebacker and safety is that the safety actually sees the entire play unfold in front of them because they're further back. And the nonverbal communication that has to come, especially from the pass defense safety, so the free safety technically, although there's a lot of interchangeability in the 49er system, the communication that has to come from that safety needs to be happening at a very high level. And every defensive coordinator is going to have different preferences for who they want at that safety position, what type of communication they want, what they're going to demand from that safety position. And we're still waiting to know and find out what exactly Raheem Morris is going to want. And it's probably not just going to be Morris. It's going to be Jerry Gray, who's the new 49ers DB coach, who they brought over from Atlanta, a team that, again, blitzed a lot last season. So we'll see how much of that Raheem Morris ports over. And I think that Matt Eberflus is going to have some say here, although he is primarily a linebackers guru, and the 49ers have solidified that with Dre Greenlaw joining Fred Warner. Ultimately, this is all football, but the 49ers have a Tampa 2-based defensive brain trust. These guys all go back to the Monty Kiffin system. Rod Marinelli is the defensive line coach in Tampa. That's the origins of Raheem Morris. Those are the origins of Kyle Shanahan. He was a defensive quality control coach on that Tampa team under John Gruden. Matt Eberflus was an assistant linebackers coach under Monty Kiffin in Dallas from 2011 to 2017. So everything is rooted into the strength of that defensive line. They had Warren Sapp on that D-line for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. John Lynch got the play behind him. The 49ers' own GM is a player disciple of the system, and the 49ers are going to want to be rooted in a strong defensive front. And they still have a lot of work to do along that defensive front. I count right now 7 sure lock players for the 49ers making the 53-man roster, and 4 of them wouldn't be able to suit up today due to injuries suffered last year. So Joey Bosa, we can talk about all that. We can talk about draft additions for the 49ers along the D-line. They need to be strong there. But the addition of pressure coming from the back end is something that we already saw last year from Upton Stout. I think we're going to see more of it because he looks even physically stronger than the guy who came in fresh off those 21 bench press reps at the Combine last year. And Nate Hobbs can add even a little bit more. This 49ers defense is being transformed in front of our eyes. And now we get to see what Raheem Morris will get to do with his new toys on the back end. And then obviously we'll see how the 49ers complete the unit, not only here in free agency, but in the NFL draft.